Wesa hail, everyone. So before I start, I just want to say I would love if anybody watching here would like to submit any questions or add-ons or recommendations on what kind of subjects I can make posts or videos about in the future. I'm almost at 100 subs, and then maybe if I get there, I could do a Q&A video. I'd love to do that and see what everybody thinks of my stuff. Just ask away and ask any questions. So I appreciate everybody checking out my yaps and all my stuff that I've been talking about. Appreciate it. So just leave it in a comment below if you would like. Okay, so this is going to be like a yap on how dragons have changed, and especially how they're very different now. So ever since seeing Toothless and Hiccup interact positively on screen, my interest and passion and obsession with dragons and griffins and many other creatures was ignited in an altered fashion. With my interest in all creatures, big and small, my continued study of them led me to many realizations. I've been doing this hybrid stuff for a while after Goji Central's thing, but I've come to realize that I've been conceptually doing this forever. How? Whenever I draw dragons. So throughout history, mystical creatures and the very definition of a dragon by terms of subjectivity and cultural definitions come to scrutiny. Dragons are hybrids, and hybrids are nearly always in the dragon criteria. Based on what a dragon is, but that depends on who is asked and when. What have dragons looked like in the media in the past 20 years or so? What kind of traits do we see in them? So when it comes to the Eastern Dragon, the whole origin story is an interesting implication. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember a story of a koi fish that is wanting to swim up a river to reach the heavens. It fails time and time again, but each time it fails, it gets stronger for it. And then when it eventually goes there, it is a large, long, powerful, mystical fish. It's a fish. And this is what everybody is saying is like a quote-unquote dragon. But like, no, it's a fish. So even in descriptions of Eastern dragons, they would say stuff like cow ears, camel lips, antlers, whiskers. Like, what is reptilian about this? At least in part. Like, you look at Eastern dragon and it's like, I would probably argue that there's nothing reptilian about it. It's probably like a fish mixed with a mammal when it comes to the East. But even in Western dragons, you see them with the bat wings all the time. And then they usually always have those horns. The kudu or antelope horns, ibex horns, they usually always have like the same horns. There's even a four-horned antelope species that we have now that looks a lot like dragon horns. It's always the same. This is no insult to any artists out there. There's a lot of really good art out there. So this is just me noticing stuff. You have Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. He looks like a newt-shaped cat with bat wings. You got the newest Pete's Dragon movie, Elliot. There is nothing reptilian about his body in that. He's a giant green dog with bat wings and breathes fire. Yeah. You got Falkor from Neverending Story. That is just a long, giant dog. Or like Haku from Spirited Away. A lot of Eastern dragons don't look like reptiles at all, I'd say. They just look like, I don't know, maybe like a weasel with horns, and then that's it. A lot of them aren't even described as breathing fire. A lot of them are associated with water, which is an interesting thing. But If I asked you to show me what reptilian exclusive traits besides like a set of scales that many of these modern or Eastern dragons had, I think you'd struggle. But a vast majority of dragon art and other pieces of historical descriptions have them with horns like antelopes and deer. But when speaking of dragons in art pieces that are made of like an elemental body, like where there isn't any biological material on them, like fire, boulders, ice, or stuff like that, I'd probably give that a pass, even though still they're usually always just shaped like a lizard with bat wings, generally. But even the teeth as well. With Eastern dragons, you'll just see, and many other dragons too, in art, the dentition is usually pretty similar with the canines and incisors and molars. And even when Godzilla, there was like this whole pseudo-intellectual era on freaking Tumblr. God, Tumblr. For some reason, about like, well, actually, that's not a dragon, that's a wyvern. Bro, just shut up for a minute. Wyverns and drakes and stuff like that are dragons. They're just a type, which goes into a whole vagueness aspect of dragons, because it is very vague. So, by that logic, is Godzilla a drake? Because he's got 4 limbs and breathes fire, or atomic breath? Like, does it have to be fire? Or does it have to be like a supernatural weapon? Not sure. But you would hear the stories of like Mesopotamia and Egypt, descriptions from outsiders when they would describe hooded serpents, which would be cobras. They have their extended hoods that they would extend out, and then they would spit the venom, like with spitting cobras. You have that mixed with translations of a hood or a quote-unquote wing, and then it spits a venom, which burns the eyes, and when you take that, it spits a burning sensation, and it has wings, and then there you go. A dragon. That may have been where it came up. But like with Godzilla, you see him hybridized as well. Like in many eras, like I think in the 70s and 80s, he has external ears. You gotta be at least part mammal to have that, because there isn't any reptiles with stuff like that. There was toothless, but that was kind of like a different thing. But even in like all the sounds that we hear, popular famous sounds that everybody likes, you got Jurassic Park. They use elephants and lions and tigers and seals. People use seal sounds a lot. That shows up in How to Train Your Dragon too. Lord of the Rings. A lot of classic repetitive sounds that you hear everywhere when it's just like a creature that doesn't exist in the real world, so they just make up a sound. And so many creatures in folklore, it's the same with like a chimera or the griffins or the chimera, which just means a mix. These mythical creatures, would they be called dragons? Does a dragon need to be a mix? Does it, like, it's so vague now ever since the word dragon was made in the early 13th century, which is a root word meaning, what did it mean again? Like the French word draconis, which means large serpent or fearsome serpent. And serpent is also has a Latin root word, which just means slithering or crawling thing. So does that mean lizards are dragons? Does that mean anything that crawls is a dragon? Which just goes to show the complexity of, not numerology, just the study of language and how it's been changing over these years, and that so much time has passed and nothing's really like exactly the same anymore. But dragons have been hybrids like at least since ancient Eastern times, and Sumerian and Egyptian, like everywhere. Everybody says, oh, there's dragon legends everywhere. It's like, yes, but that's just because it's so vague now, because they're calling everything a dragon. So yeah, I guess they would be everywhere. I mean, with certain things I see, and it's like, it doesn't even look like a reptile at all. So like, what makes a dragon a dragon? Like, the definition is not the same anymore. Like, they're not the same. You can have something that is completely mammalian, and people will call it a dragon as long as it breathes fire and flies. So it's just something that I don't understand quite yet, and maybe I'm just taking a while to like understand concepts that have already been went over. But when you see all these people on Tumblr saying, holy crap, this is so hecking dragon core, and we're like, what does that mean? What is the criteria? I don't think there's any criteria anymore. Holy crap, a lizard with scales a bit longer than normal. TS South Dragon. Like, bro, shut up. What does that even mean? Nobody can like really give like an answer. They'll tell you that they'll give you the definition of like, oh, the word derived from this, was like, okay, sure, but like nobody's doing that anymore. They're just drawing a bunch of cats. Like, cats are just everywhere, but people don't really realize it. Cats show up everywhere in art. Like with the whole anime thing of like people using cats for stuff, and it's like, yeah. And I'm also guilty of this too in many sketches that I do, because I try to make it look fierce and impressive while also not having the snout stick out so much with the short face. So I don't know, but it's really weird. Like when people talk about seals or something, and it's like a sea wyvern, and it's like, what does that mean? What is that supposed to mean? It's just a mammal. Like, if it quote unquote looks like a dragon, right, but what dragon? Because there's so much stuff out there, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know. Like, at the very least, all these legendary creatures that people like, they like them because they're a mix of different animals. And people always make them mammal core because they're always very active. They have to fly, they have to growl and snort, make noises. They have to be very active. People like them because you can make them talk, you can have them interact, you can have them be quote-unquote intelligent, and it's like, I'm not trying to diss on any ectothermic animals out there, or reptiles, but like, that's why people like them, because they act like us. That's like why people liked Kong so much, because he just looks a bit more like us and he shows emotion, which is why it just resonates more, which is why Kong has been in a lot of the MonsterVerse movies a lot, and probably had like a greater role. And I'm a Kong fan too, but I'm a fan of both, so I don't think it needs to be a competition all the time. But anyways, that's why people like them. Like, even if you have a dragon and it shows expressions like people, it's always going to be, by definition, a hybrid if it has expressions like us. And it would probably convergently look like a type of early synapsid or something, when you have something make expressions while being reptilian. But synapsids aren't reptiles at all. They're just synapsids like us. So I know I'm gonna have more thoughts at the end. I know I'm gonna miss something, because I always miss something. I just had some rough draft conceptual things to talk about, but the point that I'm trying to say is that dragons, at the very least, are always part mammal now. And dragons have changed. Like, they're not really the slow things anymore. They were legendary and will continue to be. Farath Gesund.